I'm testing a suspension stem and a suspension seat post, both from Redshift Sports. Are they any good? Let's find out.
This is the Redshift Sport Shockstop stem. This is their Shockstop seat post. They are two very different products, so let's consider them separately. Stem first. My first ride with the stem is in a different video, and I'll link to that at the end. It was a good route and you might enjoy the story. Anyway, I was impressed, but felt I needed to ride it more. Since then, I've ridden with the Shockstop stem on smooth tarmac, rougher roads and off-road in some pretty awful winter conditions. I really do like it and I've decided to keep it.
There is no downside to this stem. It doesn't compromise the bike or its handling in any ways. On climbs, that doesn't soak up any energy, at least that I can tell. But the upsides are huge. On rough tarmac and even really bouldery off-road, it soaks up vibrations that would otherwise bash your wrists. I've previously suffered with pain in my thumb tendons. This really helps. I'm doing a multi-day off-road event soon, and this for sure will be on my bike.
Comments after the first video compared it to the vintage Gervin Flex stem, which you can still find on eBay. The thing is, it was a forerunner of suspension and probably made obsolete by the arrival of suspension forks.
This is clearly more sophisticated, and you can change the elastomers to vary the amount of flex, but what is listed in the instructions for my weight is spot on. But it is not suspension in the way the flex stem was or suspension forks are meant to be. Suspension is actually the wrong word, but I'm not really sure what the correct word is. It's a damper, it's a vibration reducer, it's not really suspension. And I like this a lot for my gravel bike. I'd even consider one for the road bike.
Now the Shockstop seat post, and the first thing to notice is its half-kilo weight, so it's going to have to impress.
I have a confession. I'm going into this slightly prejudiced against this seat post. I think it's a solution looking for a problem. I don't get why you would need it, and I fear it'll soak up a lot of energy on the climbs. The amount of bounce in the seat post is adjusted simply with a dial at the bottom, and I've set this for my weight according to the instructions that came with it.
Let's see if it can persuade me. I've come to a loop I know well that mixes rough track with twisty single track and tarmac. There's also a big climb at the end.
It is a little odd setting a GoPro up to film your crotch, but this seems to be the best way to see the seat post in action.
The initial surprise was I could hardly feel the suspension moving. I just seemed to float over the rough track. It was only when I looked at the video I realized how much work it was doing. Incidentally, that plastic clip is just to protect the mechanism. Thinking this is a little too much movement, I stopped and quickly adjusted it to reduce that bounce. I later learned I should also adjust the saddle height to compensate for there being less sag from my weight. I have ridden full suspension bikes. Indeed, I had one of the first because I used to ride with one of the owners of Orange mountain bikes, but this did not feel like that. Now dialed up, it was not quite as smooth over rough ground, but it was still easier to keep saddle contact and so better traction. So, out onto the small road around the other side of the loch.
I watched back some video of the seat post and I couldn't believe how much it's been working. It doesn't feel like that, it just feels smooth. You know, I'm starting to think I might have to reappraise my initial opinion of this, but I'll reserve judgment until after I've tackled this tarmac.
Because on small rises in the road, that seat post is still working. What will happen when I tackle a steep hill?
And for me, this is a key test. How much of my climbing energy is being soaked up, making the seat post bounce?
The answer is quite a lot, and remember the resistance is dialed up to be relatively stiff for my weight. Is this a problem? Well, possibly not. On a long, rough ride, the reduced fatigue could be significant, with the mechanism just working away in the background like the stem. That said, fixing a bike packing bag under here might be awkward. So, there is a trade-off to consider.
On the one hand, there's the additional weight to carry, and inevitably some of your energy will be lost into the mechanism. But the Shockstop Seatpost gives you better traction because your weight stays on your saddle for longer, greater comfort, and less wear and tear on your body. That last factor could be the most important, particularly on a long ride. I haven't decided whether I want to buy this yet. I need to ride it more. But I hope I've helped you to make a decision.
Having said that, the Shockstop stem is a no-brainer. It is worth every penny. If you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit those bell notifications. Oh, and take a look at my other videos, including my first ride with that suspension stem. It was a wild day. I think you'll like it. Until next time, bye-bye.